I actually think it's a bad idea to have a shorter timer. Fox is like just gonna do circles and stuff around characters. Like if you can rip like 5 taunts in a row or something, the person should lose the game. It can be like any point, but you just get one solid bite. Hello. I asked people on Twitter to respond to my tweet with melee hot takes, and we're gonna look over them, talk about them, and see what people had to say. Disclaimer, yeah, I'm sorry. I meant, instead of Twitter, I meant X's. We're gonna be looking at X's to my tweet, or to my... we're gonna be looking at X's to my X. Yeah. The vast majority of the melee community is extremely unhealthy, both physically and mentally. What we have is a culture that ignores and even promotes unhealthy habits. Yeah, I mean, I think that is actually a pretty ice-cold take. I don't think it's a shock that the gaming community is full of a bunch of, like, depressed, unhealthy people, because we're all just, like, playing video games, smoking weed, drinking beers, and sitting on our ass. Like, I do think that, like... there's more drinking within melee, probably just based on like whenever there's like any kind of like fun event, typically the fun is drinking. I feel like there's like a lot of obsession for rankings and stuff, which I think mentally, at least for me, has always been kind of hard to deal with because you can't really control it. And you know, if you have a bad tournament that sticks with you the whole year, and it's kind of hard to deal with, and you're just kind of hoping that people like perceive you in the way that you want to be perceived, which I don't think is healthy. I feel like you're told that you need to grind a bunch. Like everyone's kind of told like in order to get good you have to grind like hours upon hours upon hours upon hours, so people like feel like they need to like put way more time into it than they actually need to put in. But I don't think this is a hot take. I think it's a pretty ice cold take. All right, next up we have, holy fucking shit, a novel. Talent matters a whole lot less than actively engaging with the game and verbalizing why an option is good or bad. Again, I think it's just an excuse 99% of the time. I feel bad for you if your ideal playstyle could be described as just playing on box or being cracked. How shallow. I mean, I kind of disagree because I think that there's some people who are more talented. There's some people who are more hardworking. Like, I do think that being hardworking is like I guess it is more important because even if you're talented, being hardworking is going to like propel you the extra mile. But I don't know if you need to like necessarily like verbalize stuff. Because I know for me, I always sucked at putting a lot of my melee thoughts into words. Despite how good I was getting, I wouldn't be able to actually put it into words. And I think that's perfectly fine. And I also think a lot of the time when people describe their playstyle as things like just playing on box or being cracked, that's just kind of a blanket term, because in order to describe it more in depth, it's just going to take a lot of time. Whereas just saying like, yeah, I want to be cracked, I think it's just kind of like an easier way to like generally describe it without having to like waste everybody's time. Peach is cool, and I think it's hilarious you kids talking shit about Peach mains. You wouldn't say this shit to them on land. They're jacked. Not only that, but they wear the freshest clothes, eat at the chillest restaurants, and hang out with the hottest dudes. He's not wrong. I have not said anything to Peach mains at tournaments because I prefer not to talk to them. Those who attend more tournaments should be given more slack for worse losses. This includes locals. I think all the results should be counted, but if you have more results, then the bad results just don't weigh you down that much. Except for local stuff. I don't think locals should really count. Like weeklies and stuff, I don't think should count. Because I know that was like a thing that would always like frustrate me a little bit last year when people were talking about the function. Because people were talking about like Cody's function because he got 9th and missed it, but he went to a lot of stuff. I'm like... people were saying how it shouldn't count or whatever. I'm like, I think it counts. Everything should be considered and everything should be counted other than locals. But like if you go to a lot, then you're gonna also have more data that outweighs like the bad data and like the outliers, you know? But the outliers should still be counted because they tell the full story, you know? L canceling is a bad mechanic, both in terms of game design and hand health. And there would only be benefits if the standardized version of Melee had automatic L canceling. I like L canceling. It sets off the dopamine receptors in my brain when I L cancel because I'm hitting more buttons and I feel good about myself. I actually equate it to speedrunning, and it's why I don't really like many other platform fighters. Like I could never really get into Ultimate or Nickelodeon or any other ones, and that's because in those games, right off the bat, you're moving fast as hell. Like, you're just supersonic speed right off the bat. Like, right off rip, you are moving about as fast as the top players can move. Or, like, you can. Because you don't have to learn anything. You don't have to learn the movement. Because your characters are moving fast. Stuff is kind of done for you already. And, like, it doesn't really feel good to get good in those games as much as Melee. Because in Melee, when you get good, you can tangibly see, oh, I'm moving faster. And I can tell that I'm getting better because I am moving faster and quicker, and it is just there in front of me. It's so obvious. And it adds a lot of depth because there's a lot of things you can do to mess up L cancels. Not that it happens that much, but it's like even the fact that there's potential for that, I think is very cool. And I see it as very cool. Like the way you can like angle your shield up so people are going to like hit your shield early and mess up their out cancel. And little things like that. Hungrybox makes for the most dramatic top 8s. He's the guy you never want to see beating your favorite player. I absolutely agree. I think, I mean, I don't know if anyone here is going to disagree. Because I think the fact that he has been playing Ultimate, the fact that he used to be super hated for like popping off and like playing like, I guess, campy. And the fact that a lot of Melee players don't want to see him win as much as like Ultimate players and stuff, like just putting it bluntly, it's interesting. Because he's a guy for a lot of people to root against, which I think is good. It's that kind of stuff makes it a lot more fun for everybody to watch. What was the year with Armada H-Box that people were like dire about? 2016, 2017? I think people look back on that and they talk about it all doom and gloom. But I think it was pretty dope to watch because you'd watch H-Box versus like the top 20 people and it was interesting because you kind of wanted them to win because it was like kind of like a villain. It was like a boss to overtake. I think stuff like that is good for the game. We should eventually adopt top 6 for some finals. A 4-hour top 8 demands too much patience from viewers and tires them out if it ain't the most exciting of finals. I don't inherently disagree, but I think there's like pros and cons to both. I think the thing that sucks about top 6, it takes a lot of the excitement away from players who aren't in the top 10 because it's pretty feasible for a player to make a run to top 8, but it becomes less feasible if they need to make it a top 6. And in a game where you don't make much money, that would actually kill the potential for a lot of players, in my opinion, to pursue the game full time. Because there would be less players who are seen on finals day, and that would just be bad for those players. I think if we can do top 8 finals, we should do top 8 finals. It makes it more sustainable for players. If we make it top 6 finals at events, top 8 is not as much of an accomplishment because you're not even playing on finals day. You're not playing on the big stage. You're not like... I kind of disagree there. I think top 8 just works better. It'd be easier to plan in broadcast for and also a more enjoyable player experience if we had adopted a 3-stock, 5-minute. I disagree. I think my player experience would be fucking ass if I got down throw, down tilted twice and then like 0 to death my other stock or some shit. Or like I SD'd and that's a third of my game. Like I think as competitors, you kind of want it to be like the least volatile as possible, kind of. And obviously volatility is good, but I still think there's still volatility in like 4 stocks and stuff. I don't know from like a TO perspective and like a scheduling perspective like how ass it is because I don't do that. I'm just a player. But I think ideally as a player, I'd rather other things get tried out first. If a top 50 player start working out 4 times a week for a year, they would jump at least 10 spots. I can look, chat. I think we should be allowed to bite our opponents once a set, limbs only. I'm inclined to agree with that one. Yeah, I think that's a good take. Like once a set, anytime during the set. Like it can be mid-game, it can be in between, it can be like any point, but you just get one solid bite. Timeouts in Melee would be far less boring with a shorter timer, even if they become more frequent as a result and Foxes get more encouraged to do it. I feel like everyone's talking about this. Do people really want like a short timer? I actually think it's a bad idea to have a shorter timer because people are going to time out more, and if people are timing out more, then people are just running away a lot more, and I don't think that is fun to watch. Even if timeout situations can be exciting, if it started to happen more and more, people would get so sick of them so fast, and it incentivizes really campy, lame play. Fox is like just gonna do circles and stuff around characters. The only difference between wobbling and handoffs are the emotions. People are starting to see now how handoffs are like not that different. Like they are different. You can't do them in every spot. You have to do them by the ledge. But the thing is, the Ices actually have really good tools regardless. Like they can do like down throw, up smash, regrab. Now you're at the edge, bozo, you're gonna die. They can just tech chase into the edge, regrab. I guess like my take is I think Ice Climbers are still extremely good. The handoffs at the edge are basically wobbling. They're like a little bit harder, but like it's like switching from playing like hot cross buns on the recorder to like playing fucking Jingle Bells. The harder thing is that the timing is different on every character and you have to get used to that timing, and it is more precise. I don't think handoffs change that much, except for against floaties. Floaties like a Peach and Puff, it really does change the matchup quite a bit. You shouldn't be part of this scene if you don't play the game. If someone like Chroma, Bobak, the cheater, anyone ever said they haven't played Melee in years, I wouldn't want them in the Melee scene. What the fuck, man? Like, yeah, these guys specifically, fuck them. Why, man? Like, imagine like any other sport had that. Like, I guarantee you, most basketball fans have not hit the basketball court in years, bro. You're allowed to enjoy being a spectator and just enjoy the experience of just like watching the game and being into it. POW was better. I don't agree. I like NTSC, but also I played it my whole life. I don't even know what all the changes are, but I don't know. I like NTSC. I think PAL would make it, like, it would take a lot of the oomph out of Melee if we played PAL. Marth's down air didn't spike. If Falco's down air didn't always spike. There's, like, other stuff, too. I think it would take some of the oomph out, and it would make it, I don't know. I like NTSC, personally. 8 minutes is too much. Why is that, like, every take? No, 8 minutes is good. I think Melee is good. Dude, Melee has lasted 20 years with the rule set. I really don't think we have to change the rule set. I think there's like other things that'd be more important. Puff should lose every time. I feel like that's also been kind of talked to death. I've heard good arguments because Puff kind of does determine the pace of the game against a lot of characters. It just sounds like Puff 8. I think it's a bit more than that. So what are the matchups that Puff times out in, chat? Puff versus Peach, Puff versus Yoshi. I think Puff Yoshi actually is a matchup where Yoshi could do the camping because he has like the ledge eggs and like armor and like can shield on platforms and stuff. I think most of the matchups though that Puff times out in are matchups where she like wins. There is one rule set change I think I've seen that I kind of like though that has to do with like timeouts. It's like the taunt timeout thing. Have you guys heard about that? Where like if you can rip like 4 taunts in a row or like 5 taunts in a row or something, like the person should lose the game. Falcon can taunt 5 times. It would have to be like a number that is like thought about and good and we all agree upon is like a pretty good number. Let's say it's 10 taunts in a row. If I'm on the other side of the stage and I taunt 8 times and they're just like camping the ledge, they're gonna have to start coming in or I win the game. And that is all it does. And if someone's on the ledge while I'm on the other stage or other side of the stage taunting 10 times in a row, who there is like actually like not making stuff happen, you know? I think that's how I see it. Ego is overflowing at every level and it will rapidly kill a good portion of the scene far sooner than most other causes. I think that is not true. I think ego is actually very important in competitive settings. If you don't have ego, then a lot of the time, like that is a lot of people's reasons to like get better at the game is because of ego, because their ego can't take losing. In his mind, ego is like being dicks to people because you lose and like being tilted. Like I think you can argue like, yeah, like that's not good. You shouldn't be a dick to people. But I think just ego, like I think it's good. I think ego, even trash talk, even like whatever, I think that is what actually helps thrive a lot of competitive scenes. At least I'm of the belief you need at least a tiny bit of an ego to get good at the game, because otherwise you're not gonna really like be mad when people are like better than you or when they beat you or like are perceived better than you. I think it's very important. Grand finals, best of 7, baby. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody would like say that's a bad idea. I feel like for rankings would be weird because then wouldn't winning like a best of 7 against somebody be like a super set? Also, like, what if it's HBox, LOD, reset, game, what would it be? Game, I don't know the math, man. I don't think there's anything like too wrong with this though. I'd be down to like experiment with it because I think it would make it more like exciting and feel more like a true finals. Top players would get ranked higher if they prioritize learning mid/low tier matchups. I don't really agree with that because I think you should prioritize learning the more common matchups. Sunsei lost to Quang and Lunar. Saying prioritize and saying neglect are two different things. You can't neglect matchups, but like you should prioritize the other matchups. You should play the more common matchups more. You should have like a base game plan for like ideally like every character, you know? And like if you lose, you lose and you can like prioritize it more then, but like I think having like a little bit of a game plan is like the most important thing. But like prioritizing the more common things that you run into more is like, I think it's very important. Everything about controllers suck ass. Yep. There are a few things less fun in Melee than playing a set against a low tier. I don't really enjoy low tiers. I'm not a low tier enjoyer. They only have so many tools and the game plan against them is usually just to camp the shit out of them. I'll say this now. I know it might make people mad. I'm not the biggest fan of like playing low tiers and stuff. Seeding should be random. No. Random seeding would suck. The real answer to seeding, you do this. Seed it completely accurately, but if matchups keep happening, like for example, me and Amza has happened so many times this year. We've played, I think, 8 sets this year or 6 or what is it, 6 sets this year. If that keeps happening, then you just like kind of manually like, okay, that's happened at the last fucking like 6 events, so just swap them. I don't think you do random. I think you seed it properly, but like you're willing to adjust based on like how often stuff happens. We need to embrace further modding of Melee to improve the game. Use a mod to implement ledge grab limit, completely remove all banned tech/glitches, and in the future eventually expand on the stage list somewhat. I don't want to add new stages. I think that's going way too far because that completely changes the game, because there's going to be like whole new counter picks for matchups, and like I have never been one to like want to add stuff in the game. Adding things in the game like stages and characters and stuff is bad. I really don't don't want that. But I think rule set stuff, I think implementing a ledge grab limit and stuff would be good. But unfortunately, Nintendo exists and they want to stomp on us whenever they get the opportunity to. Then there's gonna, it's like the same thing with Stadium. Once we get accustomed to Frozen, we have to play it on unfrozen for a tournament. It just sucks ass. Like, I agree that in an ideal world we can add this stuff, but we don't live in that ideal world because Nintendo fucking sucks. Fuck. So only reason Doc isn't higher than Samus is because he doesn't have a lot of, I mean, I think Doc has potential. Yeah. I mean, I saw a take, someone was talking about how in 5 years there's only gonna be like 5 characters who are used, and I'm like, I don't get how you can say that in 2023. Dude, 2023 has had so much representation. There's a Dr. Mario ranked on the top 100. There are Donkey Kongs just absolutely tearing up brackets. There are like Ice Climbers doing well again. J-Mook just lost to a Samus. Samus is on the rise. We still have like Amsa and Axe, and there's another Pikachu doing really well, Swift. I don't know. I think this is like honestly the worst year to have that take in like many recent years. It's like so diverse. Low tiers and mid tiers and stuff. They have a place. They're doing well. Move stealing is the worst mechanic in Melee because it takes away a player's ability to know what options are and aren't available to them, particularly in shield pressure situations. Nah, I think move stealing adds a bit of depth, and also there's mechanics like port priority, which sucks. Just like little things like that I think suck a lot more than move stealing. It adds like unnecessary depth. I don't think so, dude. I don't know. I don't think it's unnecessary depth. I think there's some cool shit. I just think it's interesting. I think it just makes the game a bit more interesting. People take Melee way too seriously, and I think the vast majority of players have an unhealthy relationship with the game. True to a degree, untrue to some, because I think a lot of the fun for Melee for a lot of people is the fact that they can take it very seriously. For some people, the fun is like the fact that they're going to a tournament and they're fucking trying their ass off. They put so much effort into this and they're like, no, if I lose, I'm gonna be pissed, and if I win, I'm gonna be so happy. And that is the fun for a lot of people. Like the grind and the competition and the passion and the emotion. I agree with that for some people. I think some people need to stop playing Melee or like try to view it in a more healthy light, because that it's just, of course it's true for some people, but I think I wouldn't say that's like a good blanket statement, because that was the whole thing for me. I won't beat around the bush, you know. Occasionally I have my moments where I'm tilted. Now that said, I think I've been better. I think this year I've been a peach. I have had like 1 or 2 moments where I'm like a little mad, but I think this year, in terms of like just straight up losing in Melee, I've been a peach about it. After I lost to HBox at Gommel, I got fucked. I fist bumped him. We made eye contact, and I think I tapped him on the arm. I said, good luck, man. A year ago, I would have said, fuck you, you fucking loser. Fuck, see me again, bitch. And I think that is progress. But I think that was for me, though, is like the fact that I'm going, I'm putting it all on the line is what's fun. Because I put all my effort in. I just want to see how I do, and I want to beat people and be better than people, you know? But yeah, I think that's it. We read through a bunch of shit. Thank you for submitting them. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. We didn't even talk. After the Roy stuff, we didn't talk at Gommel until after the event. So if I picked you up, I was fucking slamming your ass like WWE.